Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chasing the Truth. I'm Chase Steffes, and I know that I said that I would have a video up on Friday for you, and I know that it's Sunday now. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I was busy this weekend doing a lot of different things, but I am uploading the video today, and hopefully I hope you all will go watch it. And this is the second part to the quarterback video that I made before. I did 32 through 17 last time. I'm doing 16 through 1 this time. If you have not seen the previous video, I'd encourage you to go back and watch it. Leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to me. Thank you for all the subscribers that have subscribed so far, and thank you for all the views. Let's keep this going, get it out to people, and get them chasing the truth. But without further ado, we'll get into it. Now, leading off at 16, I have Philip Rivers as the 16th best quarterback in the NFL right now. I had him at 16 because he has shown that he can be a good quarterback, but he still needs to go that next step forward. And I think that it's a comfortable spot having him at 16. This is just for the 2020 season, by the way. But I think it's a comfortable spot having him at 16 because even though he came in last in the division last year and they ended up like I think 4-12 or like 5-11 at the season, and having Philip Rivers be inconsistent is what put him lower on this list, because the previous year in 2018 he had shown that he was a good quarterback, led this team to a 12-4 record, ended up coming back against the Chiefs in a nail-biter win that they had. It came down to the very last second, and ultimately the Chiefs ended up beating the Chargers later on that year, and then when it came down to the tiebreaker, the Chiefs had taken it away because they had won one more game in the conference in the AFC than what the Chargers did. Now, a lot of factors played into this choice with Phillip, because I know that on the Chargers he had good weapons and everything, but last year, or if you look back to 2018, he had Terrell Williams, he had Melvin Gordon the whole season, he had, a good array of weapons to work with. And he also had Antonio Gates. He didn't have Antonio Gates this past season. He had Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry came off of a knee injury that he had and wasn't the same. We're also missing Terrell Williams this past season and having Melvin Gordon there the whole season. Like, I understand that he came back and played, and he wasn't playing as good as what he hoped for, but Melvin Gordon had missed pretty much half the season, and that's part of the reason why he didn't play very well, because he wasn't in the shape and he wasn't, up to par with how things were going. And that really hurt Philip Rivers, not having his big 6'4" weapon that he had, bailout weapon on the other side of Mike Williams and Travis Benjamin and all those who were out there playing, Keenan Allen. And also on the defensive side of the ball, he lost Derwin James. But Austin Eckler ended up not doing very well because, not having Gordon there, you had the 1-2 combo. But Philip was under pressure a lot. He ended up not doing too well because of his offensive line, so he was trying to get rid of the ball, and what ultimately led to interceptions. I think having him on the Colts, having a much better upgraded offensive line, is helping. I think having Paris Campbell there as a weapon will help, and a lot of people may think that he's not going to do good. He just had a down year last year. I think having him there, giving Philip Rivers the lot of time that he has, having Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack on the team, also having T.Y. Hilton and Michael Pittman, I think those are good pickups and good guys for them. And we will see what he does, but I think the inconsistency and not having a good offensive line, I had to put him at 16 right now. But if he does better this year and leads the Colts to the playoffs and wins that division and everything, I'll put him higher on the list next year. I'll put him probably in maybe the 13-14 range, but 16 is a good spot for him, I think. Moving on to number 15, I got Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan has been an MVP. Matt Ryan has gone to the Super Bowl and everything, and ever since then the Falcons have fallen off and died out. you don't really see much of or hear much about Matt Ryan anymore. Like, you see his play on the field, but like he's also hasn't had that good team since that Super Bowl time. The defense has been inconsistent. The offensive line has been trash, and he didn't have much of an offensive like powerhouse. Like, I know that he had Julio Jones, he had Calvin Ridley, but like he had no run game. Devontae Freeman's been injured, and excuse me, guys. Devontae Freeman's been injured, and you had what was it? Telvin Smith was his backup guy. Like, that's not really much to work with. Now he's got Todd Gurley coming in, and he's fully healthy, coming off that knee injury that he supposedly had, but he's a lot better now. And then you have Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley on the team. That's going to help out a lot. And Matt Ryan's also been in the league long enough that he can adjust. But like, I put him at 15 because he has made it to that top tier place. He's beaten good teams. It's just he's had not much to work with the past couple years. And you can't fault him for that. Like, I understand that his play may not compensate where I have him on this list, but like, he's shown that he can be that guy, and he's shown that he can be consistent with how he plays and how he, works and all that. Having a much better team this year, upgraded offensive line, a better offensive, just personnel, and having a better defensive side of the ball too. I think Matt Ryan's poised for a good year. Look for him to bounce back. Now you got Jared Goff coming in at 14. Jared Goff, a lot of people may question why I have him at 14. I have him in the top 15 because I think it's a rightful spot for him. Like, he come into the league, and immediately I thought he was going to be a bust. And after his first season, it showed it. Like, he showed that he was going to be a bust and not going to be very good. But they fired Jeff Fisher, bring in Sean McVay. The next year, the Rams go 9-7, and then the following year, they go undefeated for like the first 7-8 games, and then they finally lose a couple. Then they make it to the Super Bowl. They ultimately lose to the New England Patriots because Sean McVay can't outcoach Bill Belichick, and he wasn't calling the right plays. He wasn't doing anything that suited Jared Goff and what they were trying to do. They also didn't run Todd Gurley as much as what he should have. He should have ran Todd Gurley the whole game. Had he done that, they probably would have won the Super Bowl. But last year they ended up going, I think, 7-9 or 8-8, or maybe 9-7. I could be wrong about that. I think they did go 9-7. They barely missed the playoffs. But Jared Goff has taken them farther than anybody expected, and his third year in the league took them to the Super Bowl and ultimately lost. But, you got to give the man some credit. Now having Cam Akers, a guy out of Florida State, come in and be that running back that's going to take over for Todd Gurley, it's going to be hard to do that, but we will ultimately see what can happen there. I think that Jared Goff is poised for a good year, and in a very, very tough NFC West division, it's going to be hard because the Cardinals got stronger, the Seahawks are just as good as they have been, and that Niners defense and that Niners team is really good. So it's going to be hard in that division, but Jared Goff ultimately is underrated when it comes to his play, and everybody wants to dog on him for it, but I think he's actually a good quarterback. It's just you got to give him the right play calls, and you also got to give him the chance to make the plays that he wants. With a better offensive line, I hope that he can do that, and a better offensive system, I hope he can do that. We'll see what he's capable of this year. Now, number 13 was probably the one rookie that I had the highest on this list and has the highest ceiling, and that is Kyler Murray at 13. And everybody's probably questioning why I have Kyler Murray at 13. It's because his play shows that he's good enough. It really does. Like, his play shows that, like, he had a rocky start to the first half of the year and didn't play very well. He was trying to get acclimated to the NFL, trying to get accustomed to his system, and trying to develop and build the chemistry with Larry Fitzgerald, with Andy Isabella, with Christian Kirk, and getting all those guys on the same page. As the year went on, you saw his play. He started getting better and better, started making the throws and everything like that. And I know that everybody's like, oh, well, he scrambles a lot. He has to scramble to get the plays that he wants open. It's hard for him to throw over the line, or if he does, he has to do it right away when he drops back. When he's dropping back into his 3-step or 5-step drop, he's doing that so he can get a quick look at and scan the field before everybody comes barreling at him. But he spins and goes out just to be able to look and see what's open and get the ball to where it needs to go. Now, I saw it firsthand after the Browns played the Cardinals, what he was capable of and how good he was. And his ceiling is a lot higher now, especially since they got an upgraded offensive line. They've got DeAndre Hopkins, and I know that David Johnson's gone. I think David Johnson could have had a bounce-back year, and everybody was mistaking how good he actually is, but he's been injured and hasn't been the consistent back that he needs to be. So I think Kenyon Drake is good for him. But, adding DeAndre Hopkins was good. Having Isaiah Simmons on that defensive side of the ball was a killer pickup. Like, I did not expect the Cardinals to get him. I expected the Panthers to pick up Isaiah Simmons. But letting the Cardinals get him, they got probably, arguably, the second best defensive player in the draft. And I say second best. That means over Okudah. Because I think Simmons' play outplayed Okudah, and I'm an Ohio State fan, so I can say that. But ultimately, Kyler Murray deserved the 13th spot. I did not put him in the top 10. He's got to show more for me to put him in the top 10. He's got to show more for me to put him higher on this list. I put him at 13 because I think that's a comfortable spot. I think he did good. We will see how, after his rookie year, how he does, especially having a lot better weapon in DeAndre Hopkins, having him paired with Larry Fitz and Christian Kirk and Andy Isabella. And we will see where it goes from there. If he ascends and goes and does even better, then I'll put him in the top 10 on this list. But if he falls off, he's going to go lower. I mean, that's just how it works. That's the way it goes. Number 12, I'm going to have a lot of haters for this one, but I had Big Ben at number 12. And the reason why is the man was injured last year and didn't get to play much, but I know that I said that I'm going to factor how it would be if they weren't injured and they were playing on the team. But ultimately, just looking how the season went, I don't think that it would have gone very well for Ben Roethlisberger. Like, I know that you can say, like, oh, well, he didn't get to develop the chemistry with Juju very well. Or, like, he was injured too early before, anything could get going. But you also saw how even with those first two games, like, Juju wasn't getting targeted very much, and, like, he missed Antonio Brown having that second guy opposite of him to take the pressure off of Juju. And just the way that the team was playing. Yeah, that Steelers had one of the better defenses in the league. They had a top 10 defense, but they were still lacking in the offensive firepower that they really needed. They still needed another wide receiver, which is why they went out and got Chase Claypool. And they still need James Conner to step up and be a lot better than what he has been. And I think getting in a tougher AFC North division where the Browns defense is getting tougher and the Ravens defense just got a whole lot tougher, getting Calais Campbell and Patrick Queen and having Earl Thomas on the team still, it's a lot tougher. And I think that Big Ben's play is going down, like, each year it seems like. And, like, he missed the playoff the one year and didn't make it last year, obviously, because he got injured. But we'll have to see what he does this year. He is a top 10 quarterback, but his play the past couple years, even in 2018 when they missed the playoffs, shows that it's declining and that he's not playing to his full potential. And if he can prove me wrong and play better this year and come in second place or even win the division, I will lose all doubt that I had in Big Ben, and I will put him in the top 10 in my next list next time I do it. But as of right now, the way it stands, Big Ben is at 12, and he's going to have to change my mind this year. And if he does worse or doesn't do good, then I'm going to have to lower him on this list. Now, Number 11 is going to be the biggest controversial pick I've ever done on this list. And I will get the biggest amount of hate for this one, especially who I have at number 10. But number 11, he's out of the top 10, and for a good reason in my book. Looking at it, it's Lamar Jackson. And I can already hear everybody out there saying, like, oh, he's the league MVP. You know, he had 36 touchdowns. He took the Ravens to the playoffs 2 years in a row, and, you know, everything like that. But the problem with it is everybody wants to compare Michael Vick to Lamar Jackson. Well, Michael Vick was a throw-first, run-second type quarterback, while Lamar is a run-first, throw-second type quarterback. And Vick had 1,039 yards as the record to beat for rushing yards in a single season by a quarterback. Lamar beat that. Lamar had 1,200 and I think 11 yards rushing. And I'm like, rushing, mind you, he outbeat his own teammate in Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram had 1,100 yards. Lamar had 1,200 or 1,211. How could you be the leading rusher on your team and the 7th leading rusher in the NFL, 7th or 8th, and still be considered a top 10 quarterback? You shouldn't be rushing the ball when you are a quarterback like that. You are a running back that can throw the ball. You are not a quarterback. And I understand that I hear everybody out there saying, well, he threw for so many touchdowns. Yeah, he had 36. He ran for 7 of those and threw for 29. I know that's still pretty good stats for throwing, but a lot of them, he only had 5 or 6 deep ball throws that were over 40 or 50 yards. Everything else that he had was 30 yards or less for his touchdowns. And not to mention, they were blown coverages that were wide open, too. Had they been covered, they probably wouldn't have gotten it. You can't compare a guy like Michael Vick to Lamar Jackson, or compare Lamar Jackson to Michael Vick, because Michael only had like a handful of seasons where he had 1,000 yards or more. Lamar had 1,000 yards last year and had 1,200 yards this year of rushing. Not to mention, another thing about it is, he made it to the playoffs 2 years in a row. The first year, couldn't get a throw off, and when he was under pressure, he panicked and wasn't doing very well. Same thing happened this past year. He leads them to a 12-2 record. A 14-2 record. Takes them to the playoffs. They get a first-round bye and everything. They go to play the Tennessee Titans. What did the Titans do? They stack the box, pile on Lamar Jackson, stop him from running the ball, and he has to throw it. What happens when he throws it? He throws interceptions. He gets flustered and doesn't throw very good. Throws off his back foot. Overthrows the guys, underthrows them, whatever it may be. You can't be a quarterback in this league and be a top 10 quarterback and not being able to throw. And I understand everybody's out there like, oh, well, Deshaun runs, Russell runs. Yes, but they throw the ball when they need to, or they throw it first and run second. And I understand that everybody's out there saying Lamar, oh, what he does is he runs the ball a little bit and then gets everybody to come up and then throws the ball. No, I've seen he does that, yes, but I've seen a lot of the times where he just jukes out people and just keeps going on running. You are a running back that can throw the ball. If he can throw the ball better and he can consistently win by throwing the ball, because you can't just continue running in this league. Teams are going to figure it out, and they got it figured out in the playoffs. And look at the teams that did it during the regular season last year. The Chiefs and the Browns were the only 2 teams that beat them last year. Why? Because they stacked the box and stopped Lamar from running, and then the coverage guys that were in the back, whether it be the linebackers coming back for coverage or the safeties and safeties and corners, they came back and covered the guys back there and were able to get the interceptions, the deflections, whatever it may be. I had him at the top, in the top 15, but at 11 because he needs to learn to throw the ball a lot better than what he does. He's not going to win a playoff game if he can't do that. And he lost 2 years in a row because he can't do that. If he could throw better, then I will honestly gladly put him in the top 10. Don't know if he deserves top 5, but gladly put him in the top 10. And he needs to prove me wrong and show me that he can do that. He had good throwing plays. He had good plays where he was passing the ball all over the field. But he needs to do it consistently and in the playoffs and win a game first before I could put him on that list in the top 10. And you can hate on me all you want, but the proof is in the pudding. Losing to, honestly, the Patriots or I don't know if it was the Patriots last year, but this past season it was the Titans. So until you can throw the ball better and consistently do it and not be the leading rusher on your team in the 7th in the league, then I'll put you at 11. But prove me wrong and I'll do my due diligence and gladly put you in the top 10. Now, number 10, this is where I'm going to get the hate, having this guy at 10 and Lamar at 11. I had Josh Allen. Josh Allen was at number 10. And yes, I said it. Josh Allen has proved me wrong many times over. He was the guy I wanted the Browns to draft to start like a whole franchise. And I thought he was a good quarterback coming out of college. He just needed to develop a little bit and he would have been good. I'm happy with Baker, and I'm glad to see that Josh went to the Buffalo Bills because maybe he could turn that franchise around. He's a strong arm quarterback who can throw the ball a long ways. He's thrown deep balls. He's thrown short passes. He's thrown really accurate. He can also run too, and you've seen him scramble and run and like break off big runs, jump over defenders, do everything like that a quarterback should or needs to do. And the reason why I have him in the top 10 is because his first year, they were trying to develop everything, get all the chemistry, and do whatever it is that they could do to get him acclimated with the Bills. And I think he played good his rookie year. Now, his next year, he didn't take that sophomore slump like some quarterbacks did. And he ascended a lot better. The only thing, I'm going to go back to Lamar real quick. The thing that set him apart was he's also been in a consistent system where he's got a head coach that has won a Super Bowl. You put him in any other system, and I guarantee he doesn't have the success that he does now. But Josh Allen, you could put him with a lot of systems, and he would learn and work it and make it his own and do good. And Josh Allen took them from the first year to the second year. The second year took them to the playoffs, and they barely lost to the Houston Texans. It was a gut-wrencher. And a lot of people can sit out there and say, well, it was that defense that carried the Bills to where they were. Yes, it was. But Josh was putting up the points, and his stats were climbing. He was doing good, throwing the ball all over the place and getting his receivers open. But here's a massive factor that factors into this. If anybody knows how the Bills are, they had hardly any offensive weapons and had a terrible offensive line. His leading receiver had 1,100 yards, and that was John Brown. He had Cole Beasley as a slot guy. He did not have a single other weapon after that. And I understand that, like, y'all can probably comment and say, like, oh, he had this person. But they're not that next tier that you really need, or they're not the consistent players and everything. Like, yeah, he had Devin Singletary as his running back, and he's a guy that's going to develop and be a lot better. He also had Frank Gore to teach Devin to break off those big runs and, like, wait for wide open holes and everything. But I'm telling you, he did not have that good of an offensive firepower. He got Stephon Diggs in this offseason. Having Diggs there is going to help a lot and tremendously. And I guarantee you that Josh Allen's going to play a lot better than what he did this past season. And he's got more to work with he's got less to work with than what Lamar had. Lamar had Miles Boykin, who played really good. Marquise Brown, who also is really good. He had Marcus Andrews, who played really good on the offensive side of the ball. He had Mark Ingram, who is a veteran running back that is also really good. Who did Josh Allen have? He had John Brown, 1,100 yards. Cole Beasley cracked barely 700. I think he only had almost 600. And then he had Devin Singletary, who was a rookie, and he's upcoming in this league. And then he had Frank Gore, who didn't really play a whole lot, but he was consistent. and they still made it to a 10-6 record and still made it to the playoffs. Now, with the upgraded offensive roster and a lot better on the defensive side of the ball too, they got more. I think Josh Allen is poised for a bigger season this year and looking to overthrow at everybody in that division, including the Patriots, and possibly win it. Now, if y'all disagree with me, feel free to comment and say your piece, but that's the reasons why I have them where they are on the list. And I will put Lamar in the top 10 if he gets a lot better at throwing, and he does better this year, including the playoffs. And Josh Allen, I think he's deserving of the top 10. I think he really is. So we'll see how this season plays out. But moving on to number 9, I have Deshaun Watson. And I think Deshaun Watson has carried that Texans team. I probably should have had him higher on this list. Looking back at it now, I wish I did. I wish I had him at number 7 or 8, especially with the quarterbacks that are ahead of him. But Deshaun, he's carried that Texans team. He had DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller as his weapons on the outside. I know that he just got Kenny Stills. His running back, Lamar Miller. Lamar is not that, downhill back that's going to punch you in the mouth type guy. He's not even one of those, agile, come out of the backfield type guys either. He's above average, I would say, but I wouldn't say that he's, a good top tier yet. They need a good top tier running back, and I think having David Johnson there, maybe Bill O'Brien can get him back to where he was when he came into the league, but we'll have to wait and see. Losing DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a big loss to them, but I think Deshaun Watson can overcome that and lead his team to victory like he does. And his first year in the league played really well, but he ended up tearing his ACL ultimately. And then the next year, and last year as well, he's been consistent in carrying his team to wins. I mean, he even got kicked in the freaking eye and still won a game against the Raiders. And he could barely see. His eye was swollen shut after that. And yeah, he's mobile and he runs and stuff, and I get that. But he throws the ball and he's accurate and consistent and just everything that you need. And even though his offensive side of the ball, even the offensive line is still pretty trash, he's been the consistent part and the reason why that they've won the division and carried the team. Had he not been on the team or had he been somewhere else, they would not be winning and they would not be as good as they are now. So Deshaun Watson, deserving of the top 10 spot. I wish I had him a lot higher on here looking back at it, but I think 9 is a good spot for him. Now, number 8, this is where they should have swapped. I should have had this person at 9 and then Deshaun at 8. But I had Dak Prescott at 8. Now, Dak Prescott, I think, is deserving of an 8 spot because even though he's not deserving of $35, $40 million, I think that he should he should have signed the $30 million and stayed with that because he's not good enough for that yet. But he's been consistent since he come in the league. His rookie year, him and Zeke played really well and led the Cowboys to a 13-3 record, and took them to the playoffs that year. And then the year after that, they did pretty well. But then this past year, they went on a downcline or decrease or whatever you want to call it, and went 8-8. I think that part of the reason why is because they relied more on Dak than they did on Zeke, because that offense runs through Zeke, and having it rely on Dak more is not where you want it to be. I think you want it to go through Zeke, have him run the ball, give him 20, 25 yards, or 20, 25 carries a game, 30 maybe, and then have Dak throw the ball when he needs to. I think also having CeeDee Lamb there is going to help out. And pairing him with Amari Cooper, I know that defensive side of the ball was hurting after losing a few guys. But I also think the ultimate factor in this is having Mike McCarthy. I think Mike McCarthy took the year off of football, developed, got better, learned how the league is and learned how the systems are nowadays, and then went on from there. I think having Mike McCarthy there is going to help his offensive mind and ultimately get Dak back to a winning, mode. Now, do I think that he's worth the money that he wants? No. Do I think he's worthy of being a top 10? yes, he shows it, and he's playing for America's team, for the most part, and his play, he's worthy of a top 10. Let's just put it that way. You can definitely tell. We'll see who wins that division this year. It comes down to the Eagles and Cowboys, but the Redskins are closing in, especially with the moves that they made, the coach that they got, and the Giants have still yet to be unknown and see where they're going to be. Now, number 7, I have Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is deserving of a 7 spot because, yeah, he's got a Super Bowl ring. And I know that everybody out there would be like, oh, well, he didn't lead them to the Super Bowl. Foles led them there. They won, yada, yada. But Carson had the MVP year that year. They went 13-3 that year. And Foles ended up coming in the last, 2 games of the season, won, and then carried them through the playoffs. Carson was on pace to carry that team through the playoffs and win. And when it came down to the Patriots, I still think that Carson Wentz could have beaten the Patriots. Actually, having him in there would have been a lot better because he was more mobile than what Nick Foles was. And the Patriots probably weren't ready for that. Maybe they were. It's Bill Belichick. Who knows? But Carson Wentz has shown since he's come into the league and taken over at that starting spot, taking it away from Sam Bradford, he's shown consistently time and time again that he belongs in the top 10. And I think if he stays fully healthy and remains fully healthy, then I think that, he is poised for another Super Bowl year, hopefully. And he was on pace for that last year. And had he not gotten injured in the playoffs with that concussion, I believe he more than likely would have beaten the Seahawks and went on to play the Green Bay Packers. But we don't know. Only time will tell. Carson Wentz deserving of that. Now, this next guy, number 6, I have Tom Brady. I put him at number 6 out of the top 5 because each year his stats have been declining. They declined a lot last year. He didn't make it to the number 1 or number 2 seed, and he showed that, without his bailout weapon in Gronkowski, he wasn't as good and consistent as what he wanted to be. He's getting older in age, and it's really showing. And I know everybody out there could be like, oh, well, he didn't have weapons. He didn't have much to work with. He still had the same running backs that he did. He still had N'Keal Harry and Julian Edelman. And he also had Sanu that he worked with a lot. And, if he really wanted to be as good as what he thought he was, then he would have done better and carried that team to victory. And I know that you've got him going with the Bucs, and they've got a lot better weapons than what the Patriots did, but we'll have to see how he does with the Buccaneers, being in the NFC, being in a tough division that he is now, and being in a tough conference, and we'll see if he can make the playoffs or even make it to the Super Bowl. If he makes it past the first round, then I will be shocked, and I will sit there and say that I'm wrong, and I will say that he is still one of the best ever. But I think his spot at number 6 is deserving because his stats were a lot lower. He's getting up there in age, and he's still got to prove haters wrong, is what he said. So we'll have to wait and see. Number 5, I have Jimmy Garoppolo. Yes, I have Garoppolo in the top 5. Everybody forgets how good Jimmy Garoppolo actually is. When he took over for the Patriots after Tom Brady got suspended, he went 2-0 because he got injured. He went 3-0 because in the third game, he played half the game, got injured, and then Jacoby Brissett took over. But he went 3-0, got injured, Jacoby came in, they lost that last game. He gets traded to the 49ers a year or two later, and when he got traded to the Niners, everybody forgets that he went 6-0 when he took over. 6-0. And then in 2018, he gets injured. He goes 0-3 for his first 3 games. He didn't have time to develop the chemistry that he wanted, didn't have time to go along with the players, and he still was trying to get acclimated with the playbook and the new coaching staff and everything like that. He tears his ACL, doesn't get to play. Then last year, the Niners went undefeated for the longest time. And yes, there were times where it came down to the run game, running back by committee. They really didn't have a consistent runner this whole time. But Jimmy Garoppolo, when it comes down to it, you rely on his arm a lot, and they honestly didn't have the good receivers that they wanted to. They had Deebo Samuel and they had Emmanuel Sanders, but they don't have Sanders this year. They got Samuel coming back, but they got Brandon Ayuk, a guy that I think is gonna help him out a lot. They're gonna have Jerick McKinnon back, hopefully off of injury, having him help out. And then they also picked up another receiver in the draft and one during offseason. So I think having that paired with Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a lot better. But everybody forgets that he also did go 6-0. He has played consistently, and he has done good. Now, you can sit there and say, like, his stats weren't that good. He didn't do that good in the playoffs. They didn't ask him to do a whole lot in the playoffs. They didn't ask him to throw the ball. Kyle Shanahan knew from his mistakes from before and had the run game run the ball more than what he did passing, because he knew back in his Super Bowl mistake, if you had him pass, then look at what happened. He got away from the run game back when he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons, and this time he relied on the run a lot more. But I think that this next season they're going to rely on Jimmy to win a lot of games, and he can rightfully step up and play and win the games for him. Now, y'all can sit out there and hate me all you want for putting him in the top 5 and having Brady and like other guys out of the top 5. But when you go back and look at Jimmy Garoppolo, everybody forgets how good he really is and how consistent he really is. And I'm looking for him to be that consistent and that good this next year. And he will prove that he belongs in that top 5. Now, number 4, I have Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has been a dominant force coming into this league every year since he's been in here. He's taken the Seahawks to the playoffs multiple times, gone to the Super Bowl his second year in the league, and I think he went there his third year as well. Lost it and won it his second year. Like, you're in the league for 2 years and you make it to a Super Bowl and you win. That's impressive. Everybody's looking at Patrick Mahomes that way. He's on this list too. I'll get to him shortly. But Russell Wilson has been one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the NFC and one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the league. His stats have proven every year that he's what the Seahawks need and want. And he's worth the money that he's getting paid. The fact that he's taken them every year to the playoffs, even when he's had a crappy team, he's still done consistently and taken where they need to go. They won the wild card this year. They went to the divisional round, lost to the Packers, but they still have that consistent team where I believe that they're going to take the next step this year and go farther in the playoffs. And they almost won the division. Had it come down to a last-second play, we would be looking at the Niners in the wild card spot and the Seahawks at that number 1 spot. At that number 2 spot, and the Packers at the number 1. That's saying something. Now, the fact that he was going blow for blow with the Niners in that division tells you that he is deserving of the number 4 spot on this list. Now, you're all probably questioning why I have Drew Brees at number 3 ahead of Russell Wilson. Well, Drew Brees he's a veteran in this league. He's won a Super Bowl, been to the playoffs many times, been to the championship a few times, and over the past few years, they've gotten screwed with the no call, the Miami Miracle, and the last-second play, or the overtime play that happened against the Vikings. But Drew Brees has been consistent with the team, even though he got injured last year and Teddy Bridgewater came in and went 5-0 in the time span. Drew Brees comes back and doesn't miss a beat. He's still got the consistent chemistry with Michael Thomas and his whole teammates. Alvin Kamara has been playing good. And the fact that, Drew Brees, you can put anybody on there and he does good with. He throws it to him, gets open, and he's done this with only having basically Michael Thomas as his only offensive weapon. Like, really? You can sit there and say that he's been his only offensive weapon in terms of throwing the ball to. And who else does he really have? The fact that that's pretty much all he's got. I know he's got other guys, but his number 1, number 2, whatever it may be, it seems like it's just been consistently Michael Thomas. He's had Kamara, he's had his tight ends, and, all that stuff. But, he's consistently shown that he's good without having other weapons, and he could win without having other weapons. And the fact that they came out, and I think they were the ones that picked up Emmanuel Sanders, but having him on the team is going to help tremendously and carry them to the next level. But Drew has consistently won, even with bad teams. He's, showed that he can win, and I don't think that the Saints have had a losing season for a few years now, and he's been a consistent quarterback. And when he leaves, that team's going to be poised to be good, but just depends on who they get to replace him. Drew Brees is deserving of the number 3. Now, number 2, I had Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is deserving of a number 2 spot on this list, and I had him at number 1 in the quarterback ranking that I made last year. I did it for fun, but this is for my channel and for my podcast. I have him at number 2 because he is by far the best quarterback in the NFC. And yes, I'm saying in the NFC. Over Tom Brady, over Drew Brees, over all them guys. Because it showed that you can take Drew Brees off the Saints and they're good if you get a good starter in there. 5-0, Teddy Bridgewater, no problem. But you take Aaron Rodgers off of the Packers, they're garbage. And it has showed that they are garbage. It also has showed that even though a lot of players may not like Rodgers, he's still shown that he can win the game. Who else do you know that can come out on a bum knee against the Chicago Bears? Barely can you put any pressure on your leg, and he's down 21-3 and come back and won 24-21 against the Chicago Bears defense. When they had Vic Fangio, and that was the second or third best defense in the league at that time. Who else can you say that can do that? Who else can you say that can consistently make Hail Marys possible and make them happen? Rodgers also beat Russell Wilson in the playoffs this past year. And yeah, even though there was a lot of wins and a lot of those games that they played that weren't pretty and did not have the pizzazz that you're looking for, but they still won. And when it came down to it, Rodgers made the play and made everything happen that they needed to. Now, did they get him the weapons that they needed to? No, they went out and drafted Jordan Love. Do I think that he's going to take over for Rodgers anytime soon? Probably not in the next 3 or 4 years. But I think that if you give Rodgers another weapon to work with, another consistent one, veteran, whatever it may be, I think that he carries this team to the Super Bowl and potentially wins it. He's just been that good and that consistent of a quarterback that you cannot fault him for being at number 2 on this list. And he has beaten a lot of the others. And I feel like he will this year too. Now, the number 1 guy on this list, I'm pretty sure to be on a lot of people's list, is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has taken this league by storm. He had the second most jersey sales right behind Tom Brady. He has been a guy that has consistently won since he come in the league. Pairing him with Andy Reid has been phenomenal. And everybody forgets that he sat his rookie year. Everybody thought, 2018 is his rookie year. No, he sat his rookie year behind Alex Smith, learned, and played the last game of the season and did really well. They got rid of Alex Smith, traded him to the Redskins, and then Patrick Mahomes comes in, throws 50 touchdowns and has over 5,000 yards, carries the Chiefs to the AFC Championship, and the Patriots ended up cheating their way to the Super Bowl again, or I shouldn't say cheating their way, but they always get their way, I should say, and they got to the Super Bowl. We'd be talking about how Patrick Mahomes would be going back-to-back or potentially, a 2-time Super Bowl champion back-to-back years. But ultimately it came down to a play that nobody realizes about that game. And I know everybody can say, well, Frank Clark jumped off sides. Well, going back to that game, there was Frank Clark earlier in the game went to go sack Tom Brady, and he hit his shoulder pad, and they said that it was a roughing the passer penalty because he hit him in the head. Well, ultimately, that would have backed Tom Brady up to a 4th and 14 play, but because of that penalty, they got a first down, they got new yardage, or they got fresh yards, and Tom Brady ended up throwing a touchdown after that play. But, I mean, everybody wants to sit there and blame Frank Clark for that. But no, Patrick Mahomes is deserving of this number one spot because even though he got injured last year, he come back off the injury quicker than everybody said that he would. That dislocated kneecap, everybody said he'd be out for 6 weeks. He comes back in like 3 to 4. And, like, he takes over after they've lost 3 games already. They ended up getting that second seed in the AFC over the Patriots, and they don't look back. They beat a lot of good teams in the AFC. They ended up beating the Titans to move on to the Super Bowl, and they were down halfway through the playoffs. They were down in the Super Bowl, and he come back and the second half of the Super Bowl after being down 20-10 and come back. And a lot of people were saying like, "Oh, it's his, first time being in the Super Bowl. He doesn't know what he's doing." But this guy every year I feel like is getting better and better, and he shows no pressure and is calm as ever in the pocket and when he's at quarterback because he's been around that pro system before when his dad played pro baseball. He's been around, that feeling and knows how it is. So, like, I feel like that's why he's comfortable. But Patrick Mahomes is the next generation quarterback and the one that's going to take over the league. And possibly they might have a dynasty on their hands. They might not. We'll see how it goes. But he's going to be the one that's worth $40 million. He's the number one quarterback in the league, and he's deserving number one on this list. But that is it, guys. Thank you for tuning in on this video. I'd like to get this video all the views that it deserves. I need you to like, comment, share, give it to anybody that you may not know. Subscribe if you haven't already, and catch another video tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be about the AFC South this time. I'll be talking about the division standings. Sorry this video is so long. I just wanted to go into detail about all the quarterbacks and why I put them on the list. Please watch the video all the way through, or if you don't, skip to where you want to hear your favorite quarterback or where you think that they should be. Thank you, everybody, and have a blessed day.